The future of Greenland is apparently under active negotiation, the framework for a possible deal now in place, all according to U.S. President Donald Trump.
It's a deal that people jumped at, really fantastic for the USA.
Trump offered no specifics and declined to say whether the U.S. would control Greenland.
It's a long-term deal, and I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
On social media, he credited what he called a very productive meeting with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte. And as a result, he will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February 1st on European countries opposed to U.S. control of Greenland. Rutte also declined to discuss whether the U.S. would be in control.
That issue did not come up anymore in my conversations tonight with the President.
The development coming just hours after Trump walked back his threat to use military force while still appearing determined to control Greenland.
And I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. They have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
In his speech at the World Economic Forum, Trump denigrated NATO allies, questioning their military capabilities and commitment.
But the problem with NATO is that we'll be there for them 100%. But I'm not sure that they'd be there for us.
Saving particularly harsh language for Canada.
We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not.
Trump's willingness to reach an agreement may be motivated by another key factor. Markets closed down significantly on Tuesday as investors appeared spooked by Trump's hostile rhetoric toward Greenland.
The bond market and the stock market really have a lot of influence on him. And when it goes down almost 900 points and people do interpret it as a sell America trade, that may well have been the reason he backed down.
After Trump announced he had a framework for a possible deal, markets surged. This is not the first time a Trump policy walkback has triggered this kind of investor reaction. It's happened several times when he adjusted his tariff plans.
And yet, Katie, we still don't know very much about this framework for a possible deal.
Yeah, the head of NATO would only say it's about trying to meet Trump's vision to improve security in the Arctic. Several U.S. news outlets say an agreement could include American control of some military bases, but it's important to point out that a treaty from the 1950s already gives the U.S. power to ramp up its military presence in Greenland.
All right, Katie, that is Katie Simpson in Washington. Chris Brown is in London tonight with more on the reception of Trump's sudden announcement. So, Chris, how's the news landing in Europe?
Well, it's pretty late here when this news of a framework deal broke. It's not clear that European leaders, including Denmark's or Greenland's, were even part of these negotiations. Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said this day is ending better than it began. He also said what's important is that this ends in a way that respects Greenland's people. Sweden's Foreign Minister Maria Stennergaard said, "We've repeated that we will not be blackmailed. It appears that our work together with allies has had an impact." On the other hand, Adrienne, a cautionary note from Germany's finance minister Lars Klingbeil. He warned against premature optimism. Don't get your hopes up, he said. And there's a lot of good reason to hold off on the celebrations. Just a few hours before, of course, Trump had told that Davos gathering that Denmark essentially owed the United States for Greenland, for payback, if you will, for decades of military support. After his initial speech, I talked to a Danish analyst who said perhaps a collective resolve of Europe meant Trump might finally be seeing that he might be having to pay too high a price to get Greenland, and that message might be getting through to the White House.
Okay, so that's interesting. The EU, Chris, had planned an emergency summit for Thursday to talk about Trump's tariff threat and their response. That meeting will still go ahead, though. Trump's tariffs won't, it seems.
Right. So he won't impose 10% tariffs that would kick in on 8 countries starting February the 1st. And the amount was to go up to 25%, he said, until he got Greenland. Now, the EU initially did not retaliate, but what it did do is postpone ratification of a trade deal with the U.S. and raise the possibility of hitting roughly $150 billion Canadian worth of U.S. goods with European tariffs. The emergency summit is going ahead in Brussels in part because European countries really don't seem to know what's been agreed to. And even if this is the end of the crisis, and we don't know it is, there's obviously a lot of damage that's been done. There's a real sense of betrayal in Denmark. Trump slagged its contributions to NATO, belittled the Danish military. He trashed Europe, saying it's weak and ineffective. And he also said that the U.S. spends trillions of dollars on NATO and gets nothing. And all of that leaves hard feelings and destroys trust. Adrienne.
Hey, thank you for this. That is Chris Brown in London. Now, Donald Trump also reacted to what became a marquee event at Davos, Prime Minister Mark Carney's speech. As Kate McKenna explains, Carney may not have mentioned Trump by name, but he didn't have to.
A day after Mark Carney's World Economic Forum speech, reviews are in. U.S. President Donald Trump was not a fan.
I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Carney left Davos without meeting Trump and hasn't responded to the president's comments, instead letting Tuesday's speech do the talking.
When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
On American TV, Canada's ambassador to the U.S. challenged the president's words.
Address this part of it. Canada lives because of the United States.
Canada lives because of the strength of Canadians, because of the ingenuity and hard work of Canadians.
Carney's speech was widely shared for its message about how middle powers must band together in order to survive a world where major powers push them around.
The old order is not coming back.
Trump wasn't named, but the implication was clear.
What makes this moment unusual is that a Canadian prime minister is actually participating in shaping the evolution of the international system.
But there are also concerns about whether Trump will somehow hit back ahead of a planned review of the free trade agreement known as CUSMA.
I thought it was an extremely powerful speech. I do think that every time any Canadian politician speaks now, it's like we're walking on eggshells.
Clearly, with Canada hanging in the balance with respect to renewed talks around the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement, that does not bode well.
The Prime Minister is back in Canada after a trip around the world intended to lessen Canada's reliance on the United States. His legacy and potentially the country's future may depend on whether he's able to do so. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.